This is WABE's Week in Review, the show where we look back at the last few days of stories from your WABE News team. I'm Molly Samuel, Deputy Managing Editor of WABE News, in for Alex Helmick. Hundreds of South Koreans who were working on building an electric vehicle battery plant near Savannah are now back in Korea, following last week's ice raid of the facility. We'll have more later in the show on the business and political implications of the raid. But first, opponents of Atlanta's newly built public safety training center are claiming victory 2 years after they were indicted. As WABE's Shemaine Cruz reported, a Fulton County Superior Court judge said this week he plans to dismiss racketeering charges against the protesters.
The defendants are awaiting a formal order from Judge Kevin Farmer, but a crowd of supporters still gathered outside the courthouse on Wednesday to celebrate.
We are finally getting official confirmation of what has been clear for years.
That's Marlon Kautz with the Atlanta Solidarity Fund and one of those named in the so-called Cop City RICO case. Last year, Kautz's other money laundering charges were also tossed.
Police and prosecutors have been recklessly abusing the legal process to terrorize their political enemies without regard for even basic procedural rules.
The defendants were accused of everything from throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers to camping in the forested area where the training facility was eventually built, to passing out flyers against a state trooper who fatally shot a protester. But Farmer says Republican Attorney General Chris Carr failed to get permission from the governor to bring racketeering and arson charges against the defendants. Here's Javier Dejanon, defense attorney for Jamie Marsicano of North Carolina.
Atlanta was a test run, and the state didn't win this time.
Another defendant, Alexis Papali, says he doesn't feel like the protests to stop Cop City were for nothing.
We have galvanized an entire city and many supporters nationally, even internationally, to understand the dangers of this kind of project and this kind of repression.
5 of the 61 defendants, though, could still be prosecuted for domestic terrorism. And the Deputy Attorney General has said he will appeal the judge's decision, meaning the case could linger for months or years to come. Shemaine Cruz, WABE News, the Fulton County Courthouse.
Georgia is waiting for guidance from a key CDC committee before making updated COVID boosters available. As WABE's Jess Mador reported, this used to be a routine process between the federal government and the state. Now things are uncertain after Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fired all CDC committee members and replaced them with a group that includes vaccine skeptics.
Department of Public Health Commissioner Dr. Kathleen Toomey says the state needs to wait for the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices guidance before finalizing plans for COVID shot distribution.
If it is really out of line with what we feel is appropriate given the science and epidemiologic trends as we know it, we can make decisions then. But it was actually my decision to wait because there are other ramifications for their approvals, including insurance coverage for the vaccines.
The CDC committee is set to meet September 18th and 19th. Jess Mador, WABE News.
Turning to transit, safety, station overcrowding, and making it easier to pay are some of the issues interim MARTA General Manager Jonathan Hunt says need addressing under his leadership. WABE's Raul Bally had more.
Hunt, who took over a month ago, says if the perception is the system is not safe, then there's work to do. That includes adding more MARTA Police Department staff.
We're going to add 10 more field protective specialists, and we're going to look to add 30 more sworn officers.
Hunt did not give a time frame on that, but says they will at least add the 14 officers needed to be fully staffed at 250 by the end of the year. As for station overcrowding during major events, Hunt says they will add more teams of officers, staff, and even trained volunteers.
A load and go team sits on the platform to make sure people don't get too close to the edge, and as the platform fills, they radio back to the plaza level to have people stopped so they don't come downstairs.
Staying on the station experience, Hunt talks about their new fare system.
The fare gate installation will begin in mid-September right here in Lindbergh with our initial pilots, and we're going to allow riders to pay directly at fare gates with credit and debit cards, with virtual wallets, virtual Breeze card, or your good old-fashioned physical Breeze card.
The transition to a new fare system and fare gates is projected for April. Raul Bally, WABE News, MARTA headquarters.
With less than 2 months to Election Day, campaigns and activists are trying to fire up voters about the Georgia Public Service Commission. That's the little-known agency that's the only statewide race on this year's ballot. WABE's Emily Jones reported.
While any election brings ads, events, and door knocking to remind people to get to the polls, this year campaign workers have another hurdle.
If you ask most people, they don't know what the PSC is.
That's Russell Armstrong with Black Futures Lab, a group focused on activating Black voters. He says people do care about what the PSC does. The commission regulates utilities in Georgia, including overseeing Georgia Power's plans and rates, and power bills are climbing. That motivates voters, says Carmen Bergman with Republican Fitz Johnson's campaign.
That's a galvanizing, dare I say, energizing message that will get Georgia voters out.
Helping people make that connection between their power bills and the 2 seats on the ballot this year is an all-out effort. Black Futures Lab is knocking on doors and holding events in South Georgia, spearheaded by Omega Calhoun.
The main thing is showing people that, hey, we hold the power, we hold the keys to this election and every other election from here to come.
Bergman says Johnson is taking an all-of-the-above approach.
There's going to be no stone left unturned to make sure voters know that there is a difference on the ballot.
This kind of energy is novel for a down-ballot race, according to Georgia State professor Tammy Greer.
And if we paid closer attention to their platforms, then perhaps we can start electing individuals that are looking out for all of our best interests.
Greer says she hopes to see more voter education for lower-profile races, especially if they start long before Election Day. Emily Jones, WABE News.
That story is part of a partnership with GRIST. And to learn more about the Public Service Commission, visit our website, wabe.org/PSC. DeKalb County is thinking about how to preserve its trees for the future, and it's starting with new data. WABE's Marissa Mecki had more on DeKalb's first study assessing its urban tree canopy.
Trees do a lot.
They filter air pollutants. They help reduce flooding by absorbing stormwater. They improve overall air and water quality. They help cool our communities through shade and evaporation. And they provide essential habitat for birds and other wildlife.
That's Kathy Reed, a sustainability coordinator with DeKalb County focused on long-range planning. She says to support trees, the county recently undertook a big step, its first ever urban tree canopy assessment.
And having this baseline allows us to track the tree canopy changes in the future and to more fully understand the impact of land use decisions and policies and practices around urban forestry management.
Reed says contractors used aerial images to see how much of unincorporated DeKalb, about 59% of the county, is covered by trees as opposed to other surfaces like grass or buildings or roads. And it found the canopy actually increased a bit, 2% between 2010 and 2023. Although some areas, particularly those with more light industrial developments like in South DeKalb, experienced more tree loss.
And several recommendations came out of the study, including to continue monitoring DeKalb's tree canopy and to protect our existing trees through urban forestry, best management practices, and also to evaluate our various policies and practices around urban forestry.
But Reed says it'll be up to the DeKalb County commissioners to decide what to do with these recommendations and if they will impact policies like the local tree ordinance. Marissa Mecki, WABE News.
You can keep up with state and local news with us on YouTube and Instagram, too. Find us at WABE ATL on YouTube, and on Instagram, follow WABE News. You're listening to WABE's Week in Review. I'm Molly Samuel. Hundreds of people arrested in an immigration raid at a Hyundai factory in Georgia landed back in South Korea on Friday. WABE's Emily Wu Pearson reported the chartered flight left to take them home later than expected.
South Korean officials say the U.S. offered to let the people arrested, mostly South Korean citizens, stay and finish work at the electric vehicle battery plant near Savannah. Only one person took the offer. Hundreds of South Koreans and people from China, Japan, and Indonesia flew back to Asia. The Department of Homeland Security visited the facility with an arrest warrant for 4 people, but arrested 475 at the facility. They said the workers overstayed or were here on the wrong visa, but an attorney for more than a dozen of those arrested says they had the proper paperwork. In a news conference, the president of South Korea said the raid will cause Korean companies to hesitate before investing in the U.S. Emily Wu Pearson, WABE News.
As the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's comments suggest, what happened at the South Georgia plant could threaten future business here in Georgia and around the U.S. WABE's Marlon Hyde had that story.
Hyundai has said it's investing $26 billion in the United States for the next 3 years. Troy Stangrun is the former director of the Hyundai Motor Korea Foundation Center for Korean History and Public Policy. He says the raid on the auto plant could jeopardize future investments.
We're going to see not just Korean firms, but I think foreign firms more broadly be more cautious about their workers they're sending to the United States to try and help set up facilities.
He says South Korea has also committed to investing billions more into the U.S. Meanwhile, some companies are asking workers to avoid traveling to the U.S. Marlon Hyde, WABE News.
And there could be political fallout, too. Republicans in Georgia spent years building ties with companies in South Korea, culminating in Hyundai locating its multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle plant outside Savannah. But last week's raid has put Republicans in an awkward position. WABE's Sam Gringlass reported.
When the Trump administration announced the largest workplace immigration raid in American history, many Georgia Republicans swiftly cheered the news. Round 'em up, posted Congressman Mike Collins. Representative Buddy Carter applauded Trump's bold action. But apart from a statement by a spokesperson saying in part that Georgia remains committed to not allowing the incident to undo decades of mutually beneficial partnerships, GOP Governor Brian Kemp himself hasn't said anything.
He's the one who does have somewhat of a balancing act.
That's Republican strategist Brian Robinson.
He's got to, on the one hand, consider his politics in Georgia, but also he's got to make sure that the South Koreans feel appreciated and make sure that bridges don't get burned.
During Kemp's first campaign for governor, he ran an ad offering to round up illegal immigrants himself in his truck. This summer, he dispatched the Georgia National Guard to help with immigration enforcement. But Kemp has also pledged to make Georgia the electric mobility capital of the world, aiming to create thousands of new jobs with the help of generous state incentives. The Hyundai plant has been billed as the largest economic development project in state history. South Korean companies SK Battery and solar panel maker Q-Cells have invested billions here too. Kemp has even accepted the Korea Society's most prestigious award.
The peach is a meaningful symbol to us both. I understand that in Korea it represents happiness, prosperity, and longevity. That pretty well sums up Georgia's relationship with Korea.
That relationship goes back decades. In 2006, Hyundai's parent company, Kia, broke ground on a huge plant in West Georgia. Robinson remembers traveling to South Korea with Kemp's predecessor, dining with Hyundai executives at a fancy hotel in Seoul.
We had these South Korean companies come in and really transform parts of the state. All of a sudden, there's some Korean restaurants in former sleepy southern towns.
Robinson says these investments brought new life to struggling parts of rural Georgia. Trump has also urged big companies to make their products in the U.S. He was asked about the raid on Monday.
And we're going to have to train people. And the way you train people is bring people in that know what they're doing and let them stay for a little while and help. So I'm going to look at that. It's a very interesting situation that took place in Georgia.
The raid at the battery plant, a joint venture of Hyundai and LG Energy Solution, has also provided an opening for more populist Republicans to dial up their criticism of the foreign corporations coming into Georgia. Congressman Collins, who's running for U.S. Senate, posted, "Tax dollars should not be used to steal jobs away from Georgia workers." Collins and other Senate candidates have tried to tie Hyundai to their opponent, Democratic U.S. Senator Jon Ossoff, but not Kemp.
Yeah. That is tricky. It's difficult to attack a Democratic U.S. senator for being supportive when this is Kemp's project. Voters aren't unclear on that.
And it's not just Republicans walking a fine line.
I'm ashamed as to where we're headed. I almost wish we would take the Statue of Liberty and send it back to France because we've lost our way.
Democrats like State Senator Derek Mallow of Savannah have slammed Trump's immigration tactics.
But I also want to make sure that I don't have a corporate entity that is knowingly and intentionally subverting the law. And I also want to make sure that the people who are citizens in this state are receiving the opportunities that were promised when this project came.
A Korean air jet was chartered to bring the 300 South Koreans from Atlanta back to Seoul. But the economic, diplomatic, and political fallout from the incident is far from over. Sam Greenglass, WABE News.
And finally, the Atlanta Dream have landed a spot in this year's WNBA playoffs. As WABE's Dormaya Vance reported, a new coach took over the team less than a year ago.
The Dream clinched its playoff spot in late August. At the time, Atlanta was third in the Eastern Conference. They've since moved up to number 1, though ranked third in the league. This comes amid a 6-game winning streak, plus the team's new head coach, Carl Smesko, setting a WNBA record for the most wins by a first-year head coach. The Dream is set to play the first of 2 games at home during the first round. Game 1 tips off this Sunday at College Park's Gateway Arena. The date of Game 2 has yet to be determined. Dormaya Vance, WABE News.
That's all for the show this week. Big thanks to the WABE News team for all the great work. I'm Molly Samuel. Thank you for supporting WABE and for listening to The Week in Review.